impact on your crop yields have you seen from adding the charcoal into your compost compared to standard compost?
Not been doing it long enough. It looks pretty good this year, the onions. It does look good, and it wasn't properly fermented. I suspect where I am, big benefits, because I've got such sandy soil. I suspect this is very sandy soil, looking at what they're digging out there. Here it would make a big benefit. More different soils, ideal loams, less of a benefit. So straight away, even chucking charcoal on my fields mixed with manure without fermenting it has made a difference. So doing it properly, difficult to say. I just know that, I mean, all those onions and tomatoes, the principle of what I'm doing here, cooking and selling potatoes, and we're not even going to cover diesel costs, but it's trying to demonstrate the more we cook, the more charcoal we're producing. The more charcoal I'm producing, the more vegetables per acre. The more vegetables per acre, the more I can cook. The more I can cook, the more charcoal, Really, my life has gone into a positive cycle. That's what I mean by getting back in harmony with natural systems. I'm not a cancer on the earth to the extent I was. I'm less of a parasite than before. It really is. It's a big difference in I love cooking now. I've always loved cooking, but you know what I mean? My food's even better because I'm really happy. Great, another bucket of biochar. Each time I cook a meal, another big bucket of biochar. And it's one person. I've only got a small holding. I've got just over 3 or 4 acres for horses and just over 2 acres of vegetables, and on top of that a couple of polytunnels. And pretty much what's coming out of me and a few workers plus that's a significant amount of charcoal, and I'm burning less wood than before because more efficient. I used to make wood burners for a living. No chance anymore. They're not there. I'm only interested now if it's there. It's got to be there. It's got to be, everything I've said. It's got to actually hit those buttons, all of them. And the trouble with a lot of biochar is it's not there. Just look out for it. If they're wasting the heat, if they're making it in kilns, it's not there. It's not good enough. If there's CHP plants.
Like you use charcoal on barbecue?
No, I wouldn't think of it.
No, I don't mean that.
You could use it.
Charcoal and you burn it again for heat.
Yeah, what happens, you can, but then you've lost all the benefits of sequestering carbon and improving the fertility of your soil.
Right.
You can do fine, but that's the bit I want, so you've lost the bit I would no longer be interested.
No.
The practice of charcoal kilns, chucking smoke in the air and then burning that charcoal, that should be punishable by death almost. It's so wrong. Wasting not 80-90% of the heat and then that 10% which should be sequestering. No, completely. All these idiots with these disposable barbecues. I live on a touristy beach not far from one down in South Wales, and the beach is just littered with these disposable, and it's depressing. How stupid, it's not there. Let's wise up. Let's actually get intelligence. Let's cook on these. Have your barbecue on this, and then take your charcoal home for your allotment and grow your own food. Much more fun. They don't get it. It's not malice. It's just lack of understanding. But in my world, it's such a acute lack of understanding that it's depressing sometimes. I'm living there in my little bubble, and then I see reality. It's hard.
Do you know you can eat charcoal?
Yeah, stomach bugs. Exactly the same reason why it will clean stomach bugs. Big surface area. If you've gone anaerobic in your stomach, you want to get aerobic again. You want to get those pathogens. They'll latch onto the charcoal. Filters everything. Use that same principle. Yeah. And charcoal, oil spills. Instead of tipping millions and millions of tons of detergents, causing the big problem with the Deep Horizons oil spill wasn't tipping a whole oil well into the Gulf of Mexico, not just an oil tanker. It was the cleanup. The cleanup was as bad as the spill. It was huge tons of detergents in order to sink it and disperse it. And then the official BBC story was it's evaporated and it's broken down naturally. Liars. BP managing director should be doing lifetime prison. That company should be gone. It should not exist. Thank goodness there's people bringing in laws now of ecocide. Genocide came in after the Second World War. We need ecocide right now. We need laws where that director would be lifetime in prison. Then it would not happen again. The last oil tanker spill didn't make the news. Did not make the news, a complete oil tanker. But charcoal, floating on the sea, there was a company called Sea Sweep, charcoaling battery farm chicken feathers through wanted something better to do with them, amassing it all. In the 10 years he was producing, there wasn't an oil spill and he went bankrupt. Then, literally very shortly after, Deep Sea Horizon. But you float charcoal down to the right temperature, so it floats at just the right level, and massive, massive surface area. the oil will bind onto it, and the birds can land on it and fly off, and fish can bump their heads, and you rake it in, and you have a solid fuel. It's not ideal, we shouldn't be burning oil, but it's at least, yeah. I mean, look at intelligent use of charcoal. But the one I'm interested in is an organic grower. Yeah, there's a very good Yahoo biochar group that's where I'm gleaning bits of information from, the likes of this. Worth being member.
Is it? Not waste what?
No, it's just the biochar. Yeah. And it's worth being a member if you're interested, because you get loads of rubbish emails, but the odd little diamond like that, and plenty of little diamonds, and most people. And Paul Anderson, the guy who designed these, there's a lot of intelligence on there, and and what an amazing thing to be doing. And the guys are coming up with efficient burners. They know where we've got to go, and then to have an efficient burner that's producing biochar. And my mission being here, is to try and get one that's closer. Once you've got that principle, engineers here, you've got something you can make even in any conventional Western house. We're talking very smokeless, very efficient, producing biochar and producing phenomenal heat from a very small amount of wood.
Your living room then, would you ideally light that outside, would you, or would you still be able to light it inside?
No, if you've got a thermal mass rocket heater, a normal rocket heater, you'd have a hot plate over there for your cooking, and then you'd have an oil drum around there but covered in cob so it's hidden. You'd have a pipe coming off there, because if you can send your flue horizontally, the heat is all taken out, and that goes into a big mass of cob around your flue, so you see nothing but varnished cob. Looks beautiful. You can do it with sand. Is an ideal thermal mass. Another one, not as good, what I have in one room which I'm not using, is basically a drum with 5 pipes welded and going through sand, because sand, high thermal mass, high silicate, sucks all the opposite to insulation, suck the heat out and put the heat in your room. That is hot 8 hours later. I had one in a straw bale shed with a voluntary worker in it, and she took it down because it was too hot. And I was thinking, you idiot, And then there's always grumbling. She's gone now. But you can do anything you can. The problem with this, so you imagine you've got a little box round there, but a door at the front. The door only goes down to that height, as long as your flue is higher than the wall there. So a little door, and then the rest is all sealed round. And then you can take a flue pipe off there, and then you send it up. Those flue gases are totally cold. So you have all your, when you're first lighting them, it's smoky. Or if they go out and unattended, they'll see no smoke coming from there because Val's doing a good job. You can just see a shimmer of heat. That's it. Yeah. Coming off. No, we're looking at the shimmer of heat. We're not. We're saying Val's doing a good job. They're smokeless right now. Yeah. But there's a wisp of smoke, but just see the shimmer of heat coming off that heat exchanger. That, by the way, is a heat exchanger. It doesn't look brilliant from the back. Sending just a capturing, so if it's rigged up to your hot water system. I'm using an iron instead of a hot water tank. Imagine that was a domestic cup of water tank instead. All you need are 2 pipes coming off the heat exchanger, and that slides, one of these that slides under it. You know what I mean? I'm trying to show things that you can apply easily to household systems. And that's, although it's a commercial catering thing, you can apply the same, yeah. So, difficult if you're renting or you're living in, but if I would love the challenge of living. I've always avoided living in square concrete boxes. I've always put, it's not me. But now I'd quite enjoy the challenge, because I would love to wheelbarrow loads of cob in and round the corners off first. I don't like square corners, and I like organic. But yeah, never rent me a house. But just to make it fully sustainable, carbon negative, efficient. The challenge of doing that within your living space, creating a beautiful living space. But you can do it in a normal house, as long as you're not renting. If you own a house, you can, imagination, get in there. There's a key, there's an important key to doing it, as well as your reed bed system and your window boxes. And, and the charcoal coming out, you'll have window boxes everywhere you want. And farmers as well, it's an expensive commodity. Once farmers more and more are cottoning on, instead of shipping it up and down the country, so you haven't got a garden, sell it to your farmer for a £5 a bag. Wood chip's going to go up in price. I'm getting it free off tree surgeons. Cat are paying 35 quid a tonne, and that's high moisture level. As it goes up in price, intelligent use of it. Now, if the CHP plant at Cat was producing biochar, it would be financially viable. Very simple change. Suddenly they would have a machine that turns that 35 quid a tonne into hundreds of pounds a tonne and generates heat and power. Not in this, because you need some air in there. Right. You can, if you have a little, like an auger or some way of turning it to keep rotating to get a bit of air, then you can. But this, I've gone for very simple. Yeah, sawdust is there again. You can pick up free sawdust everywhere, but not in the. Tree surgeons in this country are not allowed to dump branches. They can dump wood chip. You'll start seeing piles of it everywhere now. You know that. Ask a tree surgeon to dump it in, in your drive. Dry it out.
Cut the tree down, they have all the small branches.
Yeah,
they put them
feeding
through a
into
masher.
shippers. Yeah. When you see one, if you've got one of these together, literally each you'll say that, and before you know it, you've got 12 tons of wood chip. I've got a field, so I'm storing it, amassing it, keeping bakeries running, and drying it out in the sun or it rots. Just sun drying it.
What, just spreading it out?
I'm just raking it out and then gathering it back up, and it's very quick to dry. It's not like drying logs because it's so small. Dry it and even when it's raining it's drying. You just need a few dried because you've washed all the saps out and the resins out, and as long as it's an inch deep, or spread it out in a bit of plastic, then just gather it up and store it. They're free, these bags are everywhere now. I've got a stack of a dozen bags full, plus more coming in than you can believe. But when it is a valuable resource, when oil does, and I'm not saying if, I'm saying when, unless we all die off before then we've come up with a solution before, intelligent use of it, and something that increases the value of it. Biochar is a valuable product. That's the one thing that we'll be selling it to these CHP plants, or these CHP producers.
Is there a market for it already?
Yeah,
Biochar?
yeah. But the idiots who are producing it and they're financially viable are doing it in kilns and retorts. They're not capturing the heat.
Yeah, but I mean, if you were trying to sell a system like this to somebody, then there's the benefit.
Better to sell them that than to sell them a bag of biochar.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So if you had a really big system, say you had a village with 100 people in it.
Yep. Yeah, and a
you had
farmer.
One big system.
Yeah.
You could run the heat through everybody's house.
Yeah. Well, no, you would have everybody feeding into the vegetable grower. So but it don't need a village. You don't need a village with just find a farmer. Better than shipping it up and down the country in plastic bags.
No, what I mean is, if you had a huge stove and put as much wood in as you needed,
Yeah.
could you channel it to others' houses? Yeah.
Channel the. Sorry.
Yeah. You said if you had a fan,
Yeah.
blow the hot air with the heat.
Yeah.
One stove in the middle, could you run
Yeah, you
like
could,
5
yeah.
houses off
Hot
it?
water, yeah.
Right.
And certainly that's the advantage. That's what I'm demonstrating there, is capturing heat in hot water. Then you can have radiators in 5 houses, obviously, yeah.
Right. You could use them for greenhouses as well.
Yeah, of course, yeah. There's a Canadian guy doing that, and he does workshops, but he doesn't know of these, because these are the only ones in the world. He's using these. These are better.
Can you make portable ones? Not for a house, but
No.
light and small.
No, because you're limited. This is too small. That has to be more than 4 inches.
Right.
So you can with these, and they're brilliant, and you can buy them, but not with these. This is too small. You want 6-inch diameter.